My name is Tyler Grant. The first thing Barbara Cooper ever said to me was, "You're late." I stopped pushing my shopping cart and looked around the parking lot. There was nobody else nearby, just me, and a small elderly woman standing beside a silver sedan, staring directly at me. I pointed at myself. "Sorry, you're late," she repeated. I had never seen this woman before in my life. She looked about 70. Gray hair, blue jacket, sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. I glanced behind me. Maybe she was talking to someone else. She wasn't. "Ma'am," I said carefully. "I think you have me confused with somebody." "No," she continued staring. The strangest part? She sounded completely certain. I shifted uncomfortably. "Have we met?" "No." "Then how can I be late?" Barbara sighed dramatically. "As usual." "As usual?" Men never pay attention. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. I genuinely had no idea how to respond. She looked toward the grocery store entrance, then back at me, then she smiled. Not a friendly smile, a satisfied one, like she had just confirmed something. "What?" I asked. "You look exactly like I expected." A strange feeling settled in my stomach. Expected from where? Before she could answer, one of her grocery bags split open. A carton of eggs hit the pavement. A jar rolled across the parking lot. 2 apples escaped in opposite directions. Barbara closed her eyes. "Wonderful." I immediately crouched down to help. By the time I picked up the last apple, she was watching me again, studying me, the same way she had from the beginning. "Thank you," she said. "No problem. You didn't have to help." "I know." Barbara nodded, almost like that answer mattered. Then she asked a question that made even less sense than everything else. "Are you married?" I nearly dropped the apples. "What?" Simple question. Not a normal one. Answer it anyway. I laughed despite myself. "No." She nodded, then smiled. Again. That same satisfied smile. "Oh, good." Something told me I wasn't going to like whatever came next. And unfortunately, I was right. "Good." I stared at her. "Why is that good?" Barbara picked up one of the apples from my hands. "Because it means I don't have to feel guilty." That answer somehow raised even more questions. "Guilty about what?" "You ask too many questions. You're the one being weird." She considered that, then nodded. "Fair." For a moment I thought she might actually explain herself. Instead, she handed me 2 grocery bags. "Walk me home." "What?" "You heard me." I looked at the bags, then at her, then at the parking lot. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." "That's not concerning at all." Barbara started walking. Not fast, not slow, just confidently, like she had already decided I was coming. I stood there for 2 seconds, then followed her. Mostly because leaving a 72-year-old woman carrying heavy groceries felt wrong. Partly because I was curious, and mostly because I wanted answers. The walk took less than 10 minutes. Long enough for me to learn 3 things. First, Barbara talked to everyone. Every person we passed seemed to know her. Second, Barbara had an opinion about everything. The weather, the traffic, the mayor, a dog named Charlie. Nothing escaped judgment. And third, she still hadn't answered a single one of my questions. Not one. Every time I asked something, she changed the subject. Expertly, like she'd spent decades practicing. When we reached her house, I finally stopped on the front walkway. A small white house, flower beds, blue shutters, the kind of place that immediately felt welcoming. Barbara unlocked the front door, then turned toward me. "Coffee." It wasn't a question. "I should probably get going." "Nonsense. I barely know you. That's what coffee is for." I laughed. She was impossible. Absolutely impossible. But somehow I found myself following her inside. The house smelled like cinnamon. Not perfume, not air freshener. Actual cinnamon, like someone had been baking earlier. Family photographs covered almost every wall. Graduations, birthdays, Christmas dinners, decades of memories. Barbara noticed me looking. "That's my daughter." She pointed toward a photograph on a nearby shelf. Without thinking, I looked, and immediately understood why. The woman in the picture was beautiful. Early 30s, dark hair, bright smile, standing beside Barbara with one arm around her shoulders. Something about the photo felt warm, comfortable, real. I smiled politely. Your daughter. Barbara nodded. Hannah. Then she looked at me, very carefully, almost like she was studying my reaction. That strange feeling returned. The one I'd felt in the parking lot. Okay, I said slowly. What exactly is going on? Barbara looked genuinely innocent, which somehow made me trust her even less. What do you mean? I mean, you've spent 30 minutes acting like you know something I don't. Barbara smiled. Again, that same smile. Then she opened a kitchen drawer, pulled out a photograph, and handed it to me. I looked down. The picture showed a man, maybe 35, dark hair, similar build, similar height. For 1 second, I thought I was looking at myself. Then I realized it wasn't me. Not even close. But I understood why Barbara kept staring. The resemblance was impossible to miss. I slowly looked up. Barbara was watching me, waiting. Who is this? Her expression softened for the first time. The teasing disappeared completely. He was my husband. The room suddenly felt different, quieter, more serious. I looked back at the photo, then at her, then back at the photo, and now I could see it. The smile, the eyes, the posture. The resemblance wasn't exact, but it was enough to stop me cold. He passed away 8 years ago, Barbara said quietly. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she surprised me again. You're the first person I've met who reminds me of him. I didn't know what to say, so I told the truth. I'm not sure if that's a compliment. A small laugh escaped her. It is. Then she smiled sadly. And he would have helped me pick up those groceries too. For the first time since meeting Barbara Cooper, I understood why she'd been looking at me that way. I stayed for another 20 minutes. Not because I planned to, because leaving suddenly felt rude. Barbara made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table. And for the first time since we'd met, the conversation became normal. No strange questions. No mysterious comments. No matchmaking. At least not openly. We talked about her husband. His name had been Richard. They'd been married for 43 years. 43. The number surprised me. Not because it was long. Because of the way Barbara talked about him. Not like someone who had lost him yesterday. Not like someone who had forgotten him either. She talked about him like he was still part of the house. Still part of her life. Just living somewhere else. When I finally stood to leave, Barbara walked me to the front door. Thank you for helping me. You're welcome. I mean it. So do I. She smiled. Then her eyes narrowed slightly. That worried me immediately, because every time Barbara got that look, trouble followed. What? Oh, nothing. Barbara. Nothing. You have the face. What face? The face that means you're about to do something. She laughed. A full laugh this time. Then waved me away. Go home, Tyler. I should have known that wasn't the end of it. The next evening my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Hello. Tyler. A woman's voice. Warm. Confident. Familiar. I immediately sat up straighter. Hannah. There was a pause. Then a laugh. Good guess. My heart sped up slightly. Which was ridiculous. We hadn't even met. Not really. I hope you don't mind, she said. My mother gave me your number. Of course she did. I looked toward the ceiling. That sounds illegal. It probably is. We both laughed. And just like that, the conversation felt easy. Natural. The way good conversations do. I wanted to thank you. For what? For helping her. I smiled. She seems perfectly capable of taking care of herself. That's exactly the problem. The affection in Hannah's voice was impossible to miss. She hates asking for help. I noticed. Most people don't stick around. Something about that sentence caught my attention. Most people don't stick around. I wasn't sure why, but it felt important. Before I could think about it further, Hannah changed the subject. How bad was she? I laughed. On a scale of 1 to 10? Yes. 14. That sounds right. For the next 20 minutes we talked. About nothing. And somehow everything. Books. Work. Movies. The town. Barbara. Mostly Barbara. When the call finally ended, I looked at the clock. 38 minutes. Felt like 10. 3 days later, I saw Hannah for the first time. Actually saw her. Not in a photograph. Not through a story. In person. And somehow Barbara was responsible again. I should have guessed. I was leaving work when my phone buzzed. A text message from Barbara. Emergency. I stared at it. Then replied. What happened? The answer came immediately. Bye. I blinked. Pie? 5 seconds later, another message arrived. Just get here. Against my better judgment, I drove to Barbara's house. When I arrived, the front door was already open. I stepped inside and immediately smelled cinnamon, then apples, then something burning. Barbara, in here. I followed the voice into the kitchen and stopped. A woman stood beside the counter holding a mixing bowl. Dark hair, green eyes, jeans, light sweater, exactly like the photograph, only prettier, much prettier. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she smiled, and suddenly I understood why Barbara had been so determined to get me through that front door. You're Tyler, I laughed. And you're Hannah. Barbara pointed triumphantly from across the kitchen. See, both of us turned toward her. What? She asked innocently. I had a feeling my life was about to become much more complicated. Complicated? Hannah raised an eyebrow. That's a strong reaction for someone you've known for 30 seconds. I've known your mother longer than that. Fair. Barbara pointed a wooden spoon at both of us. Stop talking and help. Help with what? I asked. The pie. I looked at the oven, then at the mixing bowls, then at the flour covering half the kitchen. This looks less like baking and more like a crime scene. Hannah laughed. Barbara did not. I dropped the first pie. How? Gravity. That's not an explanation. It is if you're 72. For the next hour, the three of us worked together. Or tried to. Barbara gave instructions. Hannah corrected them. I mostly stayed out of the way. At one point, Barbara insisted she could carry a heavy pan by herself. At another point, Hannah confiscated a knife from her. Neither seemed surprised by this. Clearly, it wasn't their first argument. Watching them together was strangely enjoyable. The teasing, the affection, the familiarity, everything felt genuine, real, like a family, something I hadn't realized I missed. At one point, Barbara disappeared upstairs. For the first time all evening, Hannah and I were alone. She was rolling dough. I was cutting apples. The kitchen suddenly felt much quieter. So, she said. So, you survived my mother. Barely. Hannah smiled. I should probably warn you. That sounds concerning. It is. She sprinkled flour across the counter, then looked at me. If Barbara likes someone, she adopts them. I laughed. Adopts them? Pretty much. How many people has she adopted? You're number 7. I stopped cutting apples. 7? Maybe 8. That's insane. I know. We both laughed. Then Hannah became thoughtful. Honestly. What? She hesitated, then smiled. I haven't seen her this happy in a while. The comment surprised me. I looked toward the stairs, then back at Hannah. Really? She nodded. Since Dad died, she spends a lot of time alone. That explains something. A lot, actually. Not the energy, not the personality, but the reason she held onto people so tightly. The reason she'd invited a complete stranger inside for coffee. The reason she'd called me about pie. It wasn't loneliness exactly. It was connection. She valued it, protected it, because she knew how quickly it could disappear. The pie eventually survived. Barely. Barbara declared it perfect. Nobody believed her, but we ate it anyway, and somehow it actually tasted amazing. The evening stretched longer than I expected. Stories became conversations. Conversations became laughter. Before I knew it, the clock read almost 10. I stood. I should probably head home. Barbara immediately frowned. Already? It's been 4 hours. Has it? I looked at Hannah. She checked her phone, then laughed. It actually has. For some reason, that made me smile, because it hadn't felt like 4 hours. Not even close. Outside, the air was cool. The street was quiet. Most houses were dark. Hannah walked me to my truck. Neither of us seemed in a hurry to say goodbye, which was becoming a pattern. I had fun tonight, she said. Me too. Even with the pie disaster? Especially with the pie disaster. She laughed, then looked down at the sidewalk, then back at me. There was a brief pause. Not awkward, just uncertain. The kind where both people are thinking the same thing. Finally, Hannah spoke. Would it be weird if I invited you to dinner sometime? My heart immediately sped up, which was becoming another pattern. I was actually hoping you would. A smile appeared, a real one, the kind that reaches someone's eyes. Good. For a moment, neither of us looked away. Then a voice suddenly shouted from inside the house. I can still see you too. Both of us jumped. Barbara. Of course. Hannah covered her face. I started laughing. The porch light turned on, then off, then on again. Barbara was clearly enjoying herself. Hannah shook her head. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I looked toward the house, then back at Hannah. Honestly, I'm starting to understand why everyone in town knows her. Hannah laughed, and standing there beneath the porch light, watching her smile, I realized something. Helping Barbara with those groceries had been the most unexpected thing to happen all year. And somehow, it was turning into the best thing too. Dinner happened 3 nights later. Not because either of us wanted to wait. Because life got in the way. Work, schedules, the usual excuses adults collect over the years. Still, by Wednesday evening, I found myself standing outside a small Italian restaurant checking my reflection in the window, immediately regretting it. I was 35, not 17, yet somehow I felt more nervous than I had in years. Then Hannah appeared, and the nerves somehow got worse. She wore a simple dark green dress. Nothing flashy, nothing designed to impress, which somehow made her impossible to ignore. When she smiled, I completely forgot whatever clever greeting I'd planned. Hi. Very smooth. Hannah laughed. Hi. Thankfully, she seemed just as nervous. That helped. A little. Dinner started easily, the way our conversations always seemed to. One topic became another, then another. Hours disappeared. At one point, I noticed the couple at the next table had arrived after us, finished before us, and left before us. We were still talking. At another point, Hannah mentioned a bakery, not casually, the way someone talks about something important, something personal. You bake? I asked. Her eyes lit up immediately. That was my first clue. No, I laughed. No, I obsess. That's different. Very. She smiled, then explained. For the past 2 years, she'd been saving money to open a small bakery downtown. Not a chain, not a franchise. Her own place. Fresh bread, pastries, coffee. The kind of neighborhood bakery where people actually knew each other. The more she talked, the more animated she became. The more passionate. And honestly, I couldn't stop watching. Not because of the bakery, because of her. People become different when they talk about something they truly love. And for the first time that evening, I saw that version of Hannah. The one with dreams. The one willing to risk failure. The one who hadn't given up. It was attractive. More attractive than I expected. Then something changed. Subtly. But enough for me to notice. The smile faded slightly. The excitement dimmed. What? Hannah looked surprised. What do you mean? You made a face. I did not. You absolutely did. For a second she looked away. Toward the window. Toward the street. Anywhere except me. Then she sighed. The opening is next month. That's good. It should be. The way she said it told me everything. Something was wrong. What happened? For a moment she didn't answer. Then finally said, my contractor quit. I blinked. What? 3 weeks before opening. Why? He got a bigger project. I sat back. That was bad. Very bad. Even I knew that. Can you replace him? I'm trying. The frustration in her voice was impossible to miss. I've spent 2 years planning this. I could hear it now. The fear underneath the frustration. Not fear of losing money. Fear of losing a dream. And that felt very different. When dinner ended, we walked outside. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement. A light rain had started falling. Neither of us seemed ready to go home. So we walked. No destination. No plan. Just talking. At one point, Hannah stopped in front of an empty storefront. Large windows, fresh paint, a simple sign above the door, Cooper's Bakery. I looked at it, then at her. This is it. She nodded. The smile returned, smaller this time, but real. I walked closer to the window. The place wasn't finished, but I could already imagine it. Customers, coffee, morning conversations. Life felt real. And suddenly I understood why she cared so much. This wasn't just a business. It was something she'd built piece by piece. For years. Then Hannah quietly said, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm making a mistake." I turned toward her. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at the bakery, the future, the risk, everything she'd invested in. And for the first time since meeting her, I realized Hannah Cooper wasn't afraid of failing. She was afraid of getting this close to her dream and losing it. The next afternoon, I found myself standing inside the bakery, not because Hannah asked me to, because I couldn't stop thinking about that look on her face. The one she'd had while staring through the window. The look people get when they're trying not to lose hope. The place was empty except for Hannah. She stood in the middle of the room holding a clipboard, looking overwhelmed. When she saw me, she smiled, then immediately looked confused. "Tyler. Hi. What are you doing here?" Good question. I wasn't entirely sure, so I told the truth. I wanted to see how things were going. She laughed softly. "That's a dangerous question." "That bad?" She handed me the clipboard. I looked down. Electrical work incomplete. Shelving delayed. Paint unfinished. Inspection pending. The list seemed endless. I whistled. "Okay, that is bad. Thank you for the optimism." "You're welcome." Despite everything, she smiled. And that alone felt like a small victory. The next hour changed everything. Not because we had some dramatic conversation. Because we started working. Together. I helped move shelves. Hung signs. Assembled tables. Carried boxes. None of it was complicated. But every completed task made the place look more like a bakery and less like a construction site. By evening, we were both covered in dust. Tired. Hungry. And somehow laughing more than either of us had all week. At one point, Hannah sat on a stack of unopened boxes. Exhausted. "I should probably be paying you." I sat beside her. "You paid me." She frowned. "How?" I pointed toward the front windows. The bakery looked completely different than it had that morning. More alive. More real. The smile that appeared on her face was worth more than money. That was cheesy. A little. A lot. We both laughed. For the next 2 weeks, helping at the bakery became part of my routine. Work, dinner, bakery, repeat. The strange thing was that I never felt forced. I wanted to be there, because every day brought progress. Every day brought Hannah one step closer to opening. And every day brought us closer too. Somewhere between assembling chairs and painting walls, we stopped feeling like two people getting to know each other. We started feeling like a team. And honestly, that scared me a little, because teams become important, and important things can be lost. Then everything went wrong. 9 days before opening, I was at work when my phone buzzed. Hannah. The moment I answered, I knew something was wrong. Her voice sounded different. Cold. Tight. "Hey. Hi." Silence. A long silence. The kind that immediately makes your stomach sink. "Hannah. I need to ask you something." My chest tightened. "Okay." Another pause. Then she said, "Did you tell someone about the bakery's finances?" I blinked. "What? My finances?" "No." Her voice didn't change. "Are you sure?" "Of course I'm sure." I stood up, completely confused. "What happened?" Another silence. Then, "My bank manager called me this morning." I frowned. "Okay." He knew things I've only discussed with 3 people. A knot formed in my stomach. Because I already knew where this was going. And I hated it. "Hannah. One of those people was you." The words landed harder than they should have. Not because she was accusing me. Because I could hear how badly she wanted to believe I hadn't done it. And for the first time since meeting her, there was doubt in her voice. Not anger. Not disappointment. Doubt. Which somehow hurt more. For a moment I couldn't speak. Not because I was guilty. Because I was shocked. Hannah, I never told anyone anything. I know. But she didn't sound like she knew. That was the problem. I rubbed my forehead. Who else knew? My accountant. Who else? The bank manager. And, she hesitated, then quietly said, my former business partner. That immediately got my attention. The same partner who had walked away weeks earlier. The same partner who had left Hannah scrambling to finish everything alone. What happened between you two? Another silence. Then, it's complicated. Try me. I heard her sigh. The exhausted kind. The kind people make when they're tired of carrying something. She wanted to sell the bakery. I frowned. Before it even opened? Yes. Why? She thought we could make more money flipping the property. Now I understood. And I didn't like it. Not one bit. So she left. Yes. And now your bank manager somehow knows private information. Another pause. Then Hannah quietly said, I don't know who to trust right now. That sentence hit harder than the accusation. Because it wasn't really about money. Or the bakery. It was fear. Fear makes people doubt everything. Even people they care about. The next few days were different. Not dramatic. Not hostile. But different. The easy conversations disappeared. The spontaneous texts became shorter. The warmth was still there. But so was distance. And I hated it. Not because I was angry. Because I understood. Hannah had spent 2 years building something. Now she felt like it was slipping away. Fear does strange things to people. Even good people. Maybe especially good people. 3 days before opening, Barbara called me. Which immediately worried me. Because Barbara never called unless she wanted something. Or knew something. Usually both. Tyler. Hi, Barbara. You look terrible. I blinked. You called me. How do you know what I look like? I have instincts. That's not a real answer. It is at my age. I smiled despite myself. Then her voice softened. The joking disappeared. She's scared. I knew exactly who she meant. Hannah. Yes. I sat down. For the first time all week, someone was finally saying the truth out loud. Barbara continued. When people are scared, they don't always make good decisions. I stayed quiet, because she wasn't wrong. Don't give up on her. That surprised me. Barbara. Listen. Her voice became firm. The same voice that probably kept everyone in town under control. That girl has spent 2 years fighting for that bakery. I could hear emotion in her words now. Real emotion. She lost investors. She lost her partner. She worked weekends. She worked holidays. And she's terrified that one mistake is going to take it all away. For a moment neither of us spoke. Then Barbara quietly added, she likes you more than she realizes. The words landed directly in my chest. And somehow made everything harder. Not easier. Because if Barbara was right, then Hannah was hurting too. The morning before opening day, my phone rang. Hannah. I answered immediately. Hello. For a second I heard nothing. Then, can you come to the bakery? My heart immediately sped up. What's wrong? Please. That was all she said. Please. I grabbed my keys. And drove. When I arrived, Hannah was standing alone inside. The bakery was finished. Completely finished. The shelves were stocked. The tables were arranged. The coffee machines were ready. Everything looked exactly the way she dreamed. But Hannah wasn't smiling. She stood near the front window holding a folder. When she saw me, she walked over. No hesitation. No distance. No uncertainty. Then she handed me the folder. I opened it. And immediately understood. Inside were emails. Messages. Financial documents. Proof. Proof that her former business partner had been sharing information. Proof that she'd been trying to pressure Hannah into selling. Proof that I had never been involved. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Hannah quietly said, I'm sorry. And somehow, that hurt more than the accusation ever did. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The bakery was silent. Not completely silent. I could hear refrigerators humming. Coffee machines running their startup cycles. The soft ticking of a clock somewhere behind the counter. But neither of us said anything. Hannah looked down. I should have trusted you. I closed the folder. Hannah. No. She shook her head. Tears appeared in her eyes. Not dramatic tears. The kind people try very hard not to let anyone see. I accused you without saying it. I took a step closer. You were scared. That's not an excuse. Maybe not. But it was the truth. And right now the truth mattered more. She laughed weakly. I spent 2 years preparing for tomorrow. I nodded. I know. And all week I've been terrified. I know. And somehow I managed to push away the one person actually helping me. That one hurt. Not because she was wrong. Because she wasn't. For the first time since meeting Hannah, I didn't know what to say. So I did the simplest thing. I reached for her hand. And she let me. No hesitation. No doubt. No pulling away. Just relief. The kind that comes after carrying too much for too long. Opening day arrived 24 hours later. And it was chaos. The good kind. The parking lot filled before sunrise. People lined up outside. Neighbors. Friends. Families. Half the town seemed to show up. By 8 o'clock every table was occupied. By 9, the pastry display was half empty. By 10, they had sold more coffee than Hannah expected for the entire day. I stood near the register helping wherever I could. Refilling cups. Carrying boxes. Cleaning tables. Basically trying not to get run over. At one point Hannah looked at the crowd. Then at the nearly empty pastry shelves. Then back at me. And started laughing. What? We might actually run out. That's a good problem. It is. Then she smiled. The biggest smile I'd ever seen on her face. The dream was real now. Not a plan. Not an idea. Real. Around noon I spotted Barbara. Of course she was there. Standing near the entrance. Talking to everyone. Apparently introducing herself to people she'd already met 100 times. Business as usual. When she saw me, she walked over. Very slowly. Very deliberately. The way sharks approach boats. I immediately became suspicious. What? She smiled. Nothing good ever followed that smile. What? You have a plan. I always have a plan. There it is. Barbara looked around the bakery. Then nodded proudly. She did it. She did. And you helped. A little. She rolled her eyes. A lot. Before I could answer, she squeezed my arm. Then looked directly at me. For once, completely serious. Richard would have liked you. The comment caught me off guard. I looked at her. She smiled softly. The teasing gone. The jokes gone. Just honesty. And somehow that meant more than she probably realized. The bakery finally closed after sunset. The last customer left. The lights dimmed. The chairs were stacked. For the first time all day, the building was quiet. Hannah sat at one of the tables. Exhausted. I sat across from her. Neither of us had much energy left. For a while we simply sat there, enjoying the silence. Then Hannah looked around the bakery, the dream she'd spent 2 years building, and quietly said, "We did it." I smiled. "No." She looked at me. "You did it." For a second her eyes filled again. Not from stress. Not from fear. This time it was happiness. Pure happiness. The kind people remember years later. Then she laughed. A tired laugh. The best kind. And said, "You know, my mother is never going to let us forget she introduced us." I laughed immediately. Never. Not once. Not a chance. We both knew it was true. A few minutes later we stepped outside. The evening air was cool. The town was quiet again. The crowd was gone. The excitement was fading. Only the two of us remained. Hannah looked at the bakery. Then at me. Then smiled. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Remember the day you helped my mother with her groceries?" I laughed. "How could I forget?" She stepped closer. Close enough that neither of us needed to raise our voices. "What if you had just kept walking?" I thought about it. The broken grocery bag. The apples. The coffee. The pie. Everything that happened after. Then I smiled. I guess I'd have missed the best thing that happened to me all year. For a moment she just looked at me. Then she kissed me. No audience. No dramatic music. No perfect movie ending. Just two people standing on a quiet sidewalk after a very long day. And honestly, that made it perfect. Across the street, a car horn suddenly sounded. We both turned. Barbara sat behind the wheel, grinning. Waving enthusiastically, I started laughing. Hannah covered her face. And at that moment I realized something. Maybe Barbara Cooper had been right from the very beginning. Maybe I really was late. Just not to meet her. To meet Hannah.